Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Visionary Magazine. This is your host, Majid. I hope you're all doing well. Today, we're coming to you with another interview. Today, we'll be having our first female guest on video. We'll be interviewing Rayyan Umrani, who is a true Renaissance woman. So, she's a model, a poet, an author, and a brand consultant. As you can see, she does a lot of things. She has a very interesting story. She recently released her latest book, Cosmic Conversations. So, she has a lot of interesting stuff going on. So, today, we'll be talking to her kind of about how she got into exploring her passions, learn some things from her journey and what the future holds for her. So without further ado, let's get the interview started.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. This is good.
Sorry, my laptop was just kind of weird.
Okay, cool. So how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. So right off the bat, just for the people who don't know you, kind of introduce yourself and what you do.
Okay. My name is Rayyan, and I do a few things. Professionally, I do digital marketing, public relations, and social media. And then on a personal level, I am a creative. I model and I write, mainly poetry.
Okay, that's cool. That's cool. So first, I want to start with your poetry. So you've been writing poetry since a young age, right?
Yes.
So what
Yes.
kind of got you started into that?
So the earliest memory I have with poetry is when I was 7 years old. I learned how to write my first poem. It wasn't any good, but it rhymed. And since then, it's just been my method of expression, my method of, allowing myself to understand the feelings and the emotions that I go through in a way that I can comprehend, and then I can also release through words. And so that's what it's just been for me for the past most of my life.
Okay, that's interesting. And how did that kind of creative energy you had kind of propel you into the career you are on right now?
So I've always been in a state of trying to balance my creative side and then my, I guess, business entrepreneurial side. When I went to school, when I went to college, sorry, I'm American in college school. So when I was in college, I was very unsure with what I wanted to do. And I was set on going to law school as a career path. And then just kind of going through it, I was like, okay, yeah, I have to go to law school, but that's, after undergrad. What do I want to do now? What's something that I enjoy? And I was like, I enjoy and so I majored in English literature. And then I minored in philosophy because these were things that, spoke to me, but also can help me in a career, like for whatever I decide. It's always good to have good communication and writing skills.
Sure.
And then it got to a point where, I was graduating, and then I had, checked out the schools that I wanted to go to for law school. And I was just like, I really can't sit here for another 3 years, reading legal text and just, consuming myself in that. I was like, I'm not going to enjoy it. I was like, what can I do that's going to, still develop my career, but also fulfill what I need? And so I decided to go to business school.
Okay.
And then within that, like I kind of, you get a taste of everything. And the only thing that stood out to me really was marketing side, the creative side. And I was like, okay, this is cool. I can vibe with this, and then so I spent the last 5 years in Dubai just, building my marketing career, doing a lot of public relations, a lot of social media. The thing is, like, in Dubai, if you're in any of those spheres, you're going to end up doing all of them. So it's been good in the sense that I'm still able to be creative, but still have a structure to that. And then I kind of just found a headspace to balance. So then I started, sorry, my phone's silent. And so then I found a way to balance that so that I can start focusing on my writing again. And then writing again, get back into my poetry. My poetry has never been something that I'm bent on sharing with the world. It's always been like my personal thing, my way of just understanding how I'm feeling. But I knew in my mind eventually I was like, I'm going to share this, but when I'm ready. And so, I started doing poetry, and I started getting a little bit more on the scene. I started doing a lot of modeling, a lot of actual modeling through agency. paid gigs, and then a lot of content creation with brand collabs. I've been, been really blessed to be able to do both for the past few years. And then it just hit me at one point last summer. I was just like, you need to release the first book. So.
Okay, that's interesting. That's interesting. So there's a lot of stuff there's a lot of things you do. So I'd like to kind of like dig deeper into each one of them. So I'd like to start with the digital marketing. Now you've worked on a lot of like interesting projects in Dubai, like with DJ Bliss's organization and Zomato and different companies like that. So how did you start in that and how did you get to that level?
Yeah, so like my first job was with Zomato, and I think I just got really lucky. I got really lucky that they wanted to do like a non-traditional application, like it was a video application. So then my personality just, I guess, stood out. They're like, "You're great," and so it really, I really, took a head dive right into the deep end when it came to digital marketing in Dubai. It was insane for someone who's like, just fresh out of school, got my degrees, like I'm ready to take on the world. But Dubai is a different game. I've worked in the States, but working in Dubai is like, figure it out on your own. So it's a lot of like, okay, this is what I need to, here's the end goal. And you're kind of like a one-man show. You got to figure it out on your own. And so I got right into it with Zomato. Like I was the community engagement manager for the city of Abu Dhabi. And so I had to literally go out and like meet people. I had to build like the social presence and like the offline presence. So I was, being very, very out there, like, messaging bloggers on Instagram, getting into the influencer scene, like setting up events, and I was very, very hands-on. And then my career just kind of propelled from there to where I started working in agencies. I was part of the team that did the launch of Concept Store. And then, from that, I obviously met way more people, expanded my network, and then that's how I ended up with Bliss Inc. actually.
Okay. So in your digital marketing career, what is the most interesting or the most creative project you ever worked on and why?
There's so many. There's so many.
I'll bet.
Obviously, like Concepts is near and dear to my heart, the launch for that, because I was there from the beginning, before the brand started, when the brand came from Boston, the whole team from New York came out, the teaser campaign, offline campaign. I did the first launch event. That's kind of how I I guess made a name for myself in the scene too. Like people are like, oh, okay, there's this girl, she does these things, Like that was my first time like doing an activation at Seoul. So that was really cool. And then obviously for the past 3.5 years, I've been working with Bliss Inc. and we've just been doing all types of things, like from, solidifying his brand presence to getting verified, to getting press, deals, to flying out. My first work trip was to LA, which was awesome. I mean, I live here now, but that was cool. And basically literally just like, the world is your oyster in a sense in Dubai. Like if you want to do it, like you could just do it. I mean, it might not happen, but you can do it.
You can try.
So it was just like, let's see what we can do. Let's see like where we can take the brand. So I was, messaging people on LinkedIn, networking with people at events. Like I connected with so many different industries, like tourism boards, airlines, brands, the Adidas, the Reeboks, the Nikes, all of those guys. Which are really popular in Dubai. Everyone loves the streetwear culture. So really, like it was just everything was amazing because it's really like how you make it and how you approach it. Because you can start something from the ground up, and then really just hone in on it and make that collaboration even more special.
And to add on that, you've worked with a lot of startups here in Dubai, correct? So what I want to ask is, out of all the startups you worked with, what would you say are the main factors that contributed to the success of those startups?
I think the most important, there's a few things, obviously, right? Like it's very hard for a startup to succeed in Dubai, and that's just a fact because there's many. The markets tend to be very saturated, and you never know what's going to happen, right? People leave, people come, whatever. But the most important thing is being receptive to what's going on in your industry, and then quickly evolving and changing and being resilient. You can't stay the same and expect a different outcome. And if things change, you can't say, well, this is how we are, so we're going to stay this way. So the brands I've seen succeed, or that I've been a part of that have succeeded, are super resilient and agile and able to just, you know what, like, this is no longer working, let's change pace, let's do this. And I think no matter what industry you're in Dubai, that it has to be your mindset, because things change all the time. I mean, we've seen with the pandemic, you know,
Of course, yeah.
You have to be ready. You have to be ready.
So could you give us like a real life example of a startup that you worked with that had to kind of adapt to a certain change?
Yeah. Yeah. So the agency, one of the agencies I was with, they were a startup in the region. So they had an office based in, I think it's London or a city outside of London. And so they were setting up shop in Dubai, and it is a PR and marketing agency. So, you know, when you come from London or the UK or the West, you just expect things to move a certain way. And it really didn't go as the CEO planned. And, you know, I kind of had to come and be like, listen, you know, you want to get all of these clients, but here's where the trend is right now. You know, here's where, you know, it's popping. They have like the budget to spend. You know, you're going to get that traction of the agency's name by getting the traction of the clients as well. So it went from a bit of a corporate stand to a very, very like urban. I hate using the word urban, but like, you know, like it's how do you say it? Like, it's like with the times, you know, like they're like the pulse of like what's going on in the culture. So we got, after we got concepts as a client, you know, we got a very boutique gym, you know, we started like pitching to designers and kind of focusing on, okay, what's hot right now in Dubai and how do we capitalize on it, but also maximize our clients' brand exposure. So it was nice being able to steer that shift, and like having, obviously the CEO trusts me to do that, and really kind of taking on, I mean, I'm the person when I have a client, like I take them on like it's my baby. Like that's why I don't do well in agency. Like I'm an in-house girl, but you know, I take them on like my baby, you know. But yeah, so that was definitely like a very important shift that had to happen.
Okay. I think one thing people will be interested to know is like, how did you link up with DJ Bliss, and how did you end up being part of his organization?
So that's actually one of my favorite stories. It basically, so like I said, I was working with an agency, and Concepts was one of our clients, and because I catered to that brand, like it was mine, like I'd be in the store all the time, just working on my laptop. People like, are you sales associate? I'm like, no, what do you need help with? But so basically, after I had gone through the launch campaign, I was like, how do we maintain momentum? How do we, you know, keep people interested in the brand? The luxury concept store. So you really have to either focus on brand awareness, or, you know, get that traction off of like, you know, social media through like word of mouth, because not everyone's going to come in and buy. I mean, people do buy shoes every single day, right? But like not everyone is going to do that. So I was like, how do we focus on, you know, getting the buzz around like the creative circle, you know? So Concepts is a store that constantly has collaborations and drops. And so, you know, when those happens, we're like, okay, how do we create buzz, setting press releases? And then we had a New Balance collab or launch, I can't remember. And then basically it was like, I was like, how am I going to get the momentum for this? So I created the campaign, created the launch event. It was an in-store launch event, and I curated the guest list. And I was like, I want this launch to be more focused towards the music side. I was like, this is something we haven't really touched on. So I was like researching, and I knew of DJ Bliss before because obviously I've been in PR and marketing, so he's always been on my media list. So I knew of him, I knew what his demographics were. And so I was like, I want to reach out to him to see about potential collaboration with this sneaker drop. And so, you know, I just emailed him and I was like, hey, like, I'd love to send you a free pair of kicks. You know, I'd love to have you come through to the store. And so he actually came through. It was really cool. And then we had a little conversation just talking about like, oh, the launch and like what the plan was. Because what happened was I was like, I want this to be a cool launch. So I was like, have people to come in the store, but I was like, after party at Miss Lily's, So I set up with Miss Lily.
I like that.
Yeah, I was like, the brand's paying for it, so come through.
Nice.
And I wanted a different experience, not just an in-store event. So I was like, come through, and he's just like, oh, this is the stuff that you do. So we had a little chat. And then I got an email the next day just talking like, hey, can you chat? And so I was like, yeah, I figured it was something to do with the launch. And then he was just like, his team was just like, we really want to, get to know you. We have this vacancy, like come through to the office. And back then the office was a studio. So it was really cool vibes. Like we hit it off, and then it was just like, yeah, let's do it. Let's go.
That's nice. That's nice. So now I want to talk about how you kind of got into modeling. You went from like doing digital marketing and social media marketing into modeling. Like, first of all, how did that transition happen? And is that something you always wanted to do, or did you just like accidentally fall on it?
Yeah. So I'm gonna be real corny for a second. I've wanted to model since I was a kid. Like
Okay.
my mom tells me about this. I grew up in DC, and my mom was like, "Yeah, you used to get scattered all the time on the metro," but I was like really afraid because I was like, "You can't like get scattered as a kid by agencies."
Okay.
And I was like, "Mom, you ruined my dreams to be a model." But it's something I've always dreamed of doing. It's not something I've ever pursued.
Okay.
And then I kind of saw how easy the barrier to get in was. Like it was not that hard in Dubai to model because they have such a huge community of content creators who do modeling on their own. And so I was just like, let me just play around with my Instagram, make my content a little bit better. And then I had my first, I remember my first booked modeling gig. It wasn't paid, but I was a model.
Yeah.
There was their hair, there's makeup, there was stylists, and I was just like, whoa, I love this. And like it was just so natural to me in the sense that I enjoyed doing it. So I was just like, okay, let me up my game. Let me, reach out to agencies. Let me up my social media game so that I can, be noticed more, because that's how it goes. Like they see you on social, they're like, hey.
Okay.
And so I ended up working non-exclusively with MMG. And then, one of my goals was to hit the top agencies. And in Dubai, we have Wilhelmina. So I was able to finally work with Wilhelmina in 2019. Oh, it's 2020, yeah, in 2019. So it's been good. It's been like something I definitely want to do. It's something I also realize takes a lot of work. Like I would have to actually physically, like I would also have to take off of work, be like, I'm taking a vacation thing to go to this shoot because to me it was worth it. Like in the beginning of my career, I was booked with Huda Beauty. And then I couldn't talk about it for like a month, and then it finally came out, and I was like, guys, it's here. And so, I knew it would take in work, so I would have to like prioritize it. I would have to also practice. My friends are photographers, which is incredible because then, we can collab and like practice together. My friend Dina, shout out Young Habibti, she has a studio in her house. So like, going to her studio and then doing practice shots was something I definitely had to take the time and invest in. And then, from there, it's just like, okay, you're on the roster at MMG, you're on the roster at Wilhelmina. When there's shoots, they come in. I got really lucky that, through a friend, I ended up getting casted for Rita Ora's music video, which was like also a highlight. And yeah, and then I just knew, I was like, okay, you know what? Like, I know I'm able to do it. I need to perfect it, but I also need to make sure that I don't just do it for free now, because if I'm getting this caliber of like bookings and stuff like that, then it's definitely something that I need to take seriously. So.
Okay, definitely. So one thing I want to touch upon is when you said that you wanted to kind of get into it, you had to kind of remove all the posts on your Instagram and kind of, do it properly, right? Retouch it. So what are like 2 or 3 tips you can give to people who might want to do that right now? How to improve their personal Instagram page?
So definitely understand what your own aesthetic and vibe is. You can look at people's Instagram and like be like, oh, well, she's getting this amount of likes, comments, engagement. I'm gonna do exactly like her, Figure out what your own aesthetic is and then really, really commit to it. Honestly, like you see an array of different types of content on Instagram, and it gets to a point where it actually doesn't really matter. Like, for example, if you have 1 million followers, people are not looking at like, oh, this doesn't match. You know, they're like, oh, I know her, I'm gonna follow, I'm gonna like the content, whatever it is. Maybe look at celebrities, they post grainy selfies and they still get 1 million likes. So, but when you're starting out, you want to make sure that people, when they come on your feed, they know what you're about. They got to know what you're about. You got to be very clear and say, okay, here's me. I'm Rayyan. You know, I'm a writer. I'm a model. I'm a creator. And like, you see my content, and it validates it. You know.
Okay.
So you need to be very clear. It's kind of like a creative resume. You know, I see a lot of photographers and creatives constantly redo their entire feed. Well, they'll just archive everything and start fresh, right? You know, it's new vibe, new energy, new brand.
Yeah.
So that branding aspect, and it doesn't take that much work. It's just your phone, a few editing apps, and then just figuring out what that aesthetic is for you.
Okay, that's great. Now I want to talk about how you kind of went back to poetry and released your book. So first of all, how did that happen? And what made you want to release a book? And what's the book about?
Yes. Okay, so before I got into that headspace, I had a writer's block for about 2 years. I hadn't written a poem in about 2 years. And it was a creative block because I was so focused on my career, but also I didn't have the energy to put into that. So I don't like to just write just to write. I can't do that. So I went through a creative block, and then I came back, and then I started, I guess, going through what is it that I want from life, kind of existential questions. And so I started writing poems along that theme. And I wrote one poem called Cosmic Conversations. And as soon as I finished that poem, I knew, I was like, this is my next book. Like, this theme is my next book. So at the beginning of last year, beginning of 2019, I had a vision board, like a physical vision board, where I wrote out I drew out and I put up pictures of everything that I want to achieve this year and next year. So for 2019 and 2020. And so I wrote out Cosmic Conversations, and I was like, this is going to be my book. I was like, I have no idea how I'm going to do it, but it's going to be the book. And then so I started obviously writing more, and then I was just like, you know what? I keep writing about this theme, about, you know, the universe and like what it means to be alive and what it means to, you know, live your life and the things that we experience. So I was just like, I'm going to compile all of these themed books, and this is going to be Cosmic Conversations. So Cosmic Conversations is basically, it's 23 poems where I discuss, you know, everything that we experience in our daily lives, in the universe, our relation to our world, and like our relation to ourself as well, and everything that we experience in between. And so that was the first book, and it was after I realized that that was the theme and that was the idea. It took me another few months to look back at it.
Okay.
And then I think it was one day during like the Eid weekends. It was like a long weekend, and I remember I was just like in bed, like writing all day, and I was just like, and I was about to go to the gym. So I'm a morning person, so I wake up early and I journal. And I was journaling, and then like I had this creative spark, and I was just like, oh, let me just write this down. And so I wrote a poem, and then I was like, all right, time to go to the gym. And then I was getting ready to go to the gym, and I was like, you know what? I was like, I still have this creative flow right now. Like, I want to write. And so I was like, all right, fuck the gym. I was like, let me just sit down and let this out. And so I literally sat there and I compiled the book. And I was like, okay, here it is. Here's the manuscript copy. Here's, you know, what it's going to look like, table of contents, the layout, the format. And so I did that. And then I started editing it. And then, you know, obviously when you edit your own work, you go through this like criticism phase, and I was just like, this is trash, I'm not releasing this.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That was like in August, and then, you know, I told myself I'm gonna release it by the end of the year. A few things came up in my life where, you know, I just couldn't release it, and I decided to self-publish. So that means, you know, you have to figure out everything. And then I was like, you know what, new year, new me. I'm going to release it in January. So I self-published it through Amazon, and it is available now on Amazon and Barnes & Noble online. So it's only available online until I can get it in physical stores. But yeah, that was my goal, and then it happened, and I'm super happy. It feels like a lifetime ago though, because, you know, everything happened in the beginning of 2020 just feels like
It's
It's a
like a
long time.
whole decade went by. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
So,
So take us through the process of having like a spark, like an idea for a book, and then self-publishing it and selling it kind of independently. Tell us about that process, like the benefits, the cons, the pros, things like that.
yeah. So I mean, it was a process, right? It took me months to like get through the whole, ordeal. Basically, when you self-publish, you are uploading your manuscript. Like you are I mean, it depends how you self-publish. Self-publishing means, I'm going to deal with how I format it. I'm going to deal with like the rights, the licensing, the printing, and then I'm going to release it however I want. And so, I looked into agencies, publishing agencies that could help me. And, online, there's an agency for everything right now. There's so many literacy publications that are just agencies where they will provide the full package for you. And then they charge you like, $2,000. And I was just like, yeah, no. I was like, I'm also not releasing this for profit. So it's just like, what is the easiest way to do it? And so I researched, and Amazon has a publishing platform, which is super easy to use. Basically, all you have to do is format your book and your manuscript to their, criteria. If it's going to be a physical book, the criteria that you want. If it's going to be ebook, the criteria that's necessary for that. You decide if it's paperback or if it's hardcover. I sat with my friend Dina, who actually shot the cover of the book. So the front cover, it's a picture of me. It's from a shoot that we did. Her and I and Emily, the makeup artist, collaborated on this shoot. And after I saw the photos, I was like, Dina, this is the cover of my book. I was like, this is it. This is like literally.
It's a dope cover, by the way. It's a dope picture.
Thank you. Yeah. And so we collaborated on that. And then Dina's an architect as well.
Okay.
So we sat down and like, she's just like, listen, I know how to use the Adobe Creative Suite app, whatever that they use, to format books. I was like, you want me to do it? And I was like, yeah. And we both like figured it out on the way, which was awesome. So she helped me do that. And then you just upload it to Amazon. It's going to be ready in 48 hours. And then you just send everyone the link.
Okay, that's cool. So, since you've done all these things in your life, what's next for you? What do you see yourself doing in the coming years?
Yeah, so I just moved to LA. I'm fresh in LA. It's been a couple weeks, and
Nice.
I know everyone's just like, "Why are you moving mid-pandemic? Like, what is wrong with you?" And I just felt myself getting a little stagnant in Dubai. I felt like, not to be cocky, not to be like a narcissist, but I felt like I've achieved everything that I had on my checklist or my goals. I've achieved everything that I've felt I could achieve. And so I want more for myself, obviously want more for my career. So I'm here in LA. My game plan is obviously to progress my career more so in public relations and social media, marketing to a sense, but I was like, I want to still be on that front line, meeting people, organizing stuff, building those relationships. I plan to still model here as well. So I have a few options for agencies and stuff like that. That hopefully will be solidified soon. And I'm planning on releasing book number 2.
Okay, nice. So, where do you see yourself in the next 10 years? Like in 10 years, where do you see yourself? Or where do you see yourself going?
It's a good question. So in 10 years, I definitely see myself, at least probably between the next 5 to 10 years, I see myself being more of an entrepreneur, not working for anyone, having my own setup. I like to do a lot of things. I like to hustle. So definitely doing multiple things at once. I want to be able to have like a New York Times bestseller book. I'm releasing 3 books in the next 2 years, so one of them better be number 1. I definitely want to have, and I want to be able to, elevate my presence as a poet and a writer. I want to have more exposure as a writer. I want to be in 10 years, I'm going to be an established writer. People are going to know my name. They're going to be like, wow, that poet. Like how everyone talks about Rupi Kapoor or whatever her name is.
Wait, who?
There's this poetry book called Milk and Honey.
Okay.
Like really popular for a second, and everyone knows, like, oh, like I think Kylie tweeted about it or something. But I was like, no, everyone's gonna know my name. Like, I want people to know my poetry. I want people to know my name. I definitely want to elevate myself in a way that, one, I'm financially successful. My brand is successful. My brand is running in multiple different spheres. Like, I want to be able to have like a physical brand presence. Like I have this idea of like a coffee shop that's like specifically for writers, you know, because us writers, when we go to a coffee shop, there's like key things we're looking for from a coffee shop, you know? So I wanted to have all those aesthetics that we're looking for. I want to be able to probably have or be a part of some sort of publication as well. And yeah, you know, take over the world.
Okay. Nice. I like that. What are the key things that writers look for in a coffee shop? Just curious.
So the level of noise is very important, right?
Okay.
So I mean, I maybe speak for myself, but the reason writers go out to a coffee shop to write is for inspiration. So you don't want it to be dead silent like a library, right? We're not trying to get an essay done. We want a little bit of inspiration. So there's a minimum maximum level of noise that we need to be productive and get inspired. So that level of noise is very important. The aesthetics of the seating. So like, you know, it has to be comfortable, it has to be spaced out, but there should be, you know, a very like open space, open layout. Lighting is very important. And then the array of coffee options. Like there needs to be a coffee for every writer. You know, the espressos, the Americanos, the cold brews, the slow drips, whatever is your aesthetic.
Okay.
Like you have to have your coffee there, and not like in a pretentious way, but also like I know my coffee and get my order right type of thing.
Oh wow. Okay, that's interesting. Okay, so to finish this off, I'm gonna ask you a question that we ask everyone that comes on here, which is from the beginning of your journey until now, what are the two most important things you've learned?
So number one is patience. Patience is very important because regardless of what you have in your mind and regardless of what, you know, you're trying to attract, you have to be patient. You know, things are not just going to come in one day. And when you grow impatient, that's when you actually create energy blocks for yourself. So you need to learn patience. I'm still trying to master patience, but I think I'm almost there. And the second thing is resilience. Honestly, on a personal and professional level, being resilient, being able to just, you know, persevere and push through and not let anything knock you down and not let anyone knock you down. At the end of the day, it's your life to live. You know, no one has control over your life except you, not your boss, not your parents, not your significant other, not your friends. It's you know, so you need to learn that resilience and push yourself in a way or be open to challenges that, you know, you may not have considered and take them in with an open mind. I think that's people who are going to get ahead, you know, just really trying to be resilient in everything that comes their way and being flexible to adapt.
Okay, that's nice. Also, there's another question I just thought I want to add for you, which is what are the two most important things you learn when it comes to branding?
What's
Like,
that again?
what are the two most important things you've learned like about branding?
Oh, branding. Oh,
Yeah, yeah. We need to get that one out too.
Yeah. So the first thing is narration, telling your story. Honestly, no one really gives a shit what your story is. They care about how you tell your story. You know, that's what's going to hook people. That's what's going to get people to be like, you know what? This is may not have been something I'm familiar with, or like, yeah, I get this, whatever, but like I feel affinity towards you, how you tell your story. You know, every musician, every startup, whatever is like, you know, started from the ground up, whatever. Okay, no one gives a shit. Sorry if I'm cursing. Is that okay?
So go ahead.
Like everyone has that same story. They care about how you tell your story. You know, that's how you build that connection with people. So telling your story, and then following through with that story. You can't just tell your story and then leave it there and assume people are just going to consume it. You've got to follow through. You've got to have every part of your brand, whether it's your person or a product, that relates that story and relates that brand image that you want to portray, that is consistent and constantly being told throughout any channel that you decide to use.
All right, amazing. Thank you. Thank you for coming on. It was a pleasure.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Nah, it's a pleasure. All right, take care. We'll stay in touch.
Take care. See you.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Okay, everybody, that was Rayyan. The links to her Instagram page and her book will be below the video, so make sure you go check those out. If you're watching this on the website, make sure you subscribe to the newsletter. And if you're seeing this on YouTube, make sure you subscribe, like, and share it to your friends if you like the video. Make sure to follow us on Instagram and Facebook, Visionary Magazine, and take care till I see you next. Peace.